Coming up today here on the Raiders Report, my plan to fix the Raiders' offensive line in one offseason. I've heard a lot of people tell me, Mitch, we can't draft a quarterback. It doesn't matter what we do because this offensive line stinks. I'm going to make this show today, and I hope that I can prove to all of you that not only the Raiders can fix their offensive line, they can do it pretty easily, and you can do it in one flipping offseason. If you're a believer that winning football games comes down to the trenches, hit that like button because I think I got something that you're going to enjoy. Let's go to the very first thing, that what it takes to fix the Raiders' offensive line, and it's probably the biggest one. You got to fire Pete Carroll and you got to fire Brennan Carroll, because if you keep Pete, Pete's going to keep Brennan, and there's no way in hell you're going to be able to sell me that the Raiders can improve their offensive line with Brennan Carroll as the offensive line coach, because what's happening for the Raiders is the literal definition of nepotism. And the only reason why Brennan's got a job, it's because of Paul Pete. He's keeping him around. Look at this stat here. I showed this stat on Monday. I want to hit it with y'all again. But the Raiders are the first team in the Super Bowl era with 6 straight games allowing 4+ sacks and rushing for fewer than 75 yards. This is also, by the way, when you drafted a running back number 6 overall in Ashton Genty. And yeah, Pete Carroll's son, Brennan, is not only the offensive line coach, but he's also the run game coordinator. So if you don't fix Pete and if you don't fix Brennan, you're not going to be able to fix the offensive line in my book. And I'm so confident in saying that because whoever the Raiders bring in as your head coach, it's going to be upgrade over Pete. Whoever the next Raiders offensive line coach is going to be, it's going to be an upgrade over Brennan Carroll. And the new Raiders O-line coach is going to be able to help this team get on track. I think one of my favorite stats is once the Raiders fired James Craig and they had Joe Philbin, who, by the way, is still on this Raiders staff. Joe Philbin, with essentially the exact same players on the Raiders offensive line, was 7th in run blocking and 16th in pass blocking win rate. So the moment somebody yells at me, Mitch, this Raiders offensive line stinks, it does stink. And it's not good, and it doesn't help when you lose JPJ, when you lose Kolton Miller. I hear you loud and clear. But also, when you look at Joe Philbin and you look at Brennan Carroll and you look at the difference there and you realize the players aren't all that different, it comes down to coaching. And when you just lack simple fundamentals like this team clearly does on every single aspect of the game, if you don't move on from Pete and if you don't move on from Brennan, you're right. You're not going to fix this offensive line. So we got to cut the head off the snake to be able to get it going. So I'll say this right now. And, we've said things like, hey, you could say something to Gino, what would you say? If you could say something to Pete, what would you say? Today, I want you to direct all your frustration. I want you to direct anything you'd like to say to Brennan Carroll. So you're about to get it with a YouTube ad break. While that ad is playing, I want you to scroll on down and act like I'm Brennan Carroll right here. What would you say to me? My answer of what I would say to Brennan Carroll coming up right here after this YouTube ad break. Hey, Brennan, you know what would help your coaching? If you licked my butthole. Does anybody know the movie reference? Bonus points to anyone in the live chat if you can give me the movie reference. And if you don't know the movie reference, well, then I hope that you look it up. It's one of my favorite movies. It's one of my favorite actors. And yes, Brennan kind of ties in with that just a little bit. What's crazy is that mother effer might do it. Let's go to the next reason here of how I believe I could fix the Raiders' offensive line in one offseason. You already are going to keep Kolton Miller at left tackle. There's no need to do something crazy. There's no need to fix something that you know is going to work. And I bring this up because the Raiders tried to move JPJ away from center. If it ain't broken, don't fix it. So let's keep Kolton Miller at left tackle. And I know he's been banged up this season, but before the injury that he sustained, you can make an argument Kolton Miller was one of the best left tackles in the National Football League, and I think that these numbers absolutely prove it. I'm not saying that PFF is the all-be-all because PFF has also messed up a lot of things, especially this season, but in 250 snaps, an 86.5 overall grade, an 89.9 run pass blocking grade, and a 75.8 run blocking grade. It's not probably too much of a surprise that the Raiders' offensive line has really declined since replacing Kolton Miller with Stone Forsythe. Not rocket science there. But the reason why I'm bringing this up is because I've seen the Raiders move people away from the best spots that they could play. And I like Charles Grant. I want to be clear on that. But just because you drafted Charles Grant, if you're telling me you're going to replace Kolton Miller, you're going to replace our new quarterback's blind side, it's idiotic. Keep Kolton Miller at left tackle. Move on from Pete Carroll and Brennan Carroll, and we're moving in the right direction. I'll keep saying this over and over and over again, but I do believe in my heart of hearts, if you watch the Raiders report, you will become a smarter fan. I'm not saying everything I say is right. Clearly, I thought that Geno Smith had top 10 quarterback upside with this coaching staff. I'm going to be wrong, but that's also part of the job here, right? There's nobody on the planet that gives more takes than I do. There's nobody that gives more opinions around the Las Vegas Raiders. You're going to be right, you're going to be wrong. But I do honestly believe, and it's the reason why we've been the number one most watched Raiders show, not only do we build an awesome community, but you are going to learn something. And it's 100% free. So my deal is this to y'all. If you hit that subscribe button for the very first time today, and if you don't learn anything after a week, unsubscribe. You have absolutely nothing to lose. But I think you're going to enjoy the community that we have here. I think you're going to enjoy the content that I provide, and you are definitely going to learn something. If you watch this show after a week and you tell me you don't learn something, I think it's because you're not trying to learn anything. Let's go to the next way here that I think that if you're the Raiders, you can fix this offensive line. I know I have been clamoring all season long to put JPJ at center. But to me, what's really important here is you got to be able to tell JPJ that either A, he's going to be the center, B, here's our plan if we put you on offensive guard. But I want Jackson Powers-Johnson to know that we value you and we value you as a starter, because the worst way that you could take away the confidence of a young player is to sit up there at the podium, say something like, absolutely not, he's not going to play this position. Or B, you put him in a battle with Alex Kappa, and Jackson's wondering, well, I'm way better than this guy. Why does this coaching staff hate me? I want to be very clear here. I want Jackson Powers-Johnson to be the center of the Las Vegas Raiders unless we can go out and side Tyler Linderbaum. Because the reason why I say that, if you put Tyler Linderbaum at center and JPJ at offensive guard, those two next to each other, that's like Jerry Danley and Bayou Raider. It's the Bash Brothers, Mighty Duck style. They would feed off each other super well. Now, if you keep JPJ at center, I don't know if you're going to be able to find another interior offensive lineman as good as Linderbaum, so then you might have to mix and match a little bit. But to me, if you put him at guard, Linderbaum and him is an unbelievable duo next to each other. And then I actually think that JPJ would be really, really solid offensive guard. It's the best five. If we don't get Linderbaum, though, you better put him at center, because to me, you're not going to be able to find a better center out there in free agency. You're not going to be able to find a better center in terms of actual trade value at the price tag that he has. So put somebody who was the Remington Award winner in college football in 2023 for being the best center. Show him that you believe in him. And having a center like JPJ, having somebody that brings that physicality when you got a running back like Ashton Genty and you got an offense that is set up to be more of a power team with two really good tight ends, it just makes sense from top to bottom. Now, some of y'all might be sitting up here going, well, Mitch, this isn't rocket science. Apparently, it is to our current coaching staff. So, to me, if we're going to build the offensive line that we're going to build, let's also use the foundation players that we already have. Put Kolton Miller at left tackle. Make JPJ your starting center, or, again, that interior offensive guard if you add somebody like Linderbaum, and you're moving in the right direction. But I got more ways here to fix the Raiders' offensive line in 2026, and I guarantee you get done watching this show, you're like, yeah, that wasn't so hard. And you're right. It's not very difficult. You know what also isn't very difficult? It's one of the reasons why I love PrizePicks, because of how straightforward it is. And it's really simple to play. You pick more, you pick less on at least two player stats, and then you can watch the winnings roll in. They also have a bunch of new features that I love to be able to use, but I do want to talk about how straightforward PrizePicks is. I don't have to spend a lot of time trying to calculate my payouts. PrizePicks makes it easy with their payout multipliers, whether it's just a simple 5 times or a big 2,000 times. PrizePicks makes it easy to understand how much I can win. It is simple to play. You just pick more or less on at least two players' stats, and if you get your picks right, you can cash in. PrizePicks puts their members first. While withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. PrizePicks accepts most major payment methods, making deposits into your account quick and easy this sports season. If you want to roll with our lineup, this is Jeremy Chuggs' lineup, and I love this lineup. Give me the less on Gardner Minshew and a difficult battle against Tennessee, maybe? I don't really know. I just don't really believe in Gardner Minshew. Trevor Lawrence against the tough defense in the Broncos. I like the less there. C.J. Stroud and the Texans, they're playing the Raiders. Yeah, you're damn right. Give me the more. Phillip Rivers, less up against the tough 49ers defense on Monday Night Football. The bottom line is, if your fantasy season is over, if your Raiders season is over, and you want something to root for, this is truly the best time of the year. I love college football. I love watching football in general. And if you want to be able to get a lineup in, maybe you want to watch basketball tonight with my guy Marsh, you can do it. PrizePicks. Download the PrizePicks app today. Use code CLNS to be able to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks. It's good to be right. Then, if we have Kolton Miller at left tackle, if we got JPJ, again, center or offensive guard, you got to find your third starter with what you already have, right? So let's look at the Raiders' offensive line here real quick, because to me, you've drafted 3 offensive linemen in the 3rd round over the past 2 years. You have DJ Glaze, you drafted Caleb Rogers, and you drafted Charles Grant. So I want to be very clear on that. Now, if you want to try to bring back Jordan Meredith, who is a restricted free agent, you can do that at a cheap value. But I'm looking at this current Raiders offensive line here, and I'm going, well, you know what? It's updated. I updated it. Stone Forsythe isn't somebody that I want to bring back. DJ Glaze, isn't somebody that I don't know if he can continue to stay there. But Dylan Parham, free agent, hasta la vista. Alex Kappa, $0 million guaranteed, hasta la vista. Will Putnam, with all due respect, hasta la vista. So I'm looking at Kolton Miller. I'm looking at Jackson Powers-Johnson, Charles Grant, Caleb Rogers, DJ Glaze. But all I'm looking to do, if Miller's going to start at left tackle, let's say JPJ starting at center, between Caleb Rogers, DJ Glaze, and Charles Grant, that's 3 players out of the 3rd round. One of those guys needs to be a starter. So if Charles Grant's the best guy, put him at right tackle. If Caleb Rogers is the best guy, put him at guard. If DJ Glaze is the best guy, I actually think he's fit better as an offensive guard as he does tackle. I said it when the Raiders drafted him coming out of Maryland. But what the other good part about that is, if one of those guys can be a starter, right? I think what ends up happening is I believe in Charles Grant the most personally. But you guys can let me know later. So if you put Charles Grant at right tackle, then that allows to have DJ Glaze to be your potential swing tackle backup offensive lineman. It allows Charles Grant or Caleb Rogers to be your backup offensive guard. Like, to have your 6th and 7th offensive lineman be a Caleb Rogers and a DJ Glaze, that's a lot of good value there. So then all you got to be able to figure out is to find those 2 other starters, whether it be an offensive tackle. Maybe it's a center like Linderbaum, or it's an offensive guard, and you have the amount of money to be able to do it. So out of these 3 players here in the 3rd round, Caleb Rogers, Charles Grant, DJ Glaze, pick your starter. Rogers can play. I think he's more, again, of an offensive guard. Grant, to me, is an offensive tackle, though some people think he might be a guard. DJ Glaze plays offensive tackle. I think he's a guard. Bottom line is, though, you've seen these players play. Very limited sample size for Grant. Glaze has given up 10-plus sacks this season, but he does have a lot more experience, and Glaze looked much better as a rookie compared to what he's looked right now, so I don't really want to knock him too much for that. So out of these 3 players here, who would you go with? My answer coming up here after this YouTube ad break. If I had to rank these 3 players for next season, this is the way that I would do it. And it's only because I value Charles Grant at offensive tackle, because I think there's a lot of other really good offensive guards that you could be able to go out and sign in free agency. Caleb Rogers is also a young player. DJ Glaze comes in here at number 3, but that doesn't mean that Glaze or Rogers can't beat out Charles Grant. The point is, 1 out of these 3 players needs to be a starter. The other 2, backup offensive tackle, backup offensive guard. That's good value, and it's just how smart teams are built. And I think we could do it. Let's go to the final play in here. And if you watch this show all the time, I don't even think this was that much of a secret, but I'm going to spend a lot of money in free agency. And when you have a glaring need like the Raiders have on offensive line, I'm okay you overpaying. If there's one position I'm okay with the team overpaying, it's on the offensive line. It's on the defensive line, because at the end of the day, you got to be able to win in the trenches. But by overspending or spending in free agency, because we have the money to do it, you're not only investing in your offensive line, you're not only showing hopefully that new quarterback that you're going to draft that you got an offensive line, You're literally also, though, investing in Ashton Genty and Brock Bowers. And how many times did we say it last year? Doesn't make sense to draft Ashton Genty if we don't have an offensive line. So I'm looking at the Las Vegas Raiders here with $107 million in salary cap space, second most in the NFL. And I'm going, if you don't upgrade your offensive line in free agency, it's because you haven't made it a big enough of a priority. I'm not saying you're going to be able to go out and get Linderbaum. I'm not saying you're going to be able to go out and get all the top guys. But if you offer them more money than everybody else, I think you got a shot. And the fact that the taxes are the way that they are in Nevada, that's going to attract some players. But you can't go in to the 2026 NFL draft, in my book, without solidifying your offensive line. And if you go out and you spend a lot of money on two players, and to me, these are 10 players that I would look at. I look at Lindenbaum at center, Braden Smith, Rasheed Walker at offensive tackle. Now, Smith is a right tackle. Rasheed Walker is a left tackle. At the offensive guard position, I get some of these players are a little bit older, like a Joel Batoni and a Wyatt Teller, but I also think offensive linemen can play into their later 30s. We see it all the time. Isaac Salamalo, same thing, right? David Edwards is a little bit risky. Ed Ingram's kind of the first year that he's played well. Elijah Vera Tucker's coming off an injury. But if you can add two of those players, and in all honesty, if you look at two of those players there, I think that's $50 million at the absolute most. And again, we have $107 million. So you go out, you add two of those types of players to your offensive line, and then you have your other two backups. In my mind, that is 7 really good offensive linemen. And if that plan sounds crazy, if that plan sounds out of reach, then I don't know what to tell you. I think you're just upset or a pessimistic because you've been a Raider fan for so long, and I don't doubt Raider fans for being that way. But the Las Vegas Raiders can fix their offensive line in one offseason by firing Pete and firing Brennan. If those two people are in charge, you're just wasting your time because you're not going to be able to build your offensive line. Keep Kolton Miller at left tackle. Put JPJ at center, or let him know that, hey, we're going to go out and get Tyler Linderbaum. That's why you're going to play guard. That might sound ridiculous to say, but our coaching staff showed me this season that if it ain't broken, they will try to fix it. And JPJ deserves to be a starting center or a starting offensive guard, and Kolton Miller deserves to stay at left tackle. Find your third starter between Charles Grant, Caleb Rogers, and DJ Glaze. One of those guys got to be a starter. The other two can be a backup offensive tackle, can be a backup offensive guard. That's value. Then you spend money in free agency with $107 million, the second most in the NFL. The Las Vegas Raiders can fix their offensive line plan, and the reason why you do it, to invest in your young quarterback and to also invest in the guy you drafted in the first round last season in Ashton Genty. If you want to grade my plan, give me an A, B, C, D, or F.